Good morning. Welcome to the MIT Sloan webinar series for incoming MBA students. Thank you for joining this webinar brought to you by the MBA Program Office. We have worked in conjunction with colleagues from offices throughout Sloan to offer these summer webinars to help you prepare for opportunities and introduce you to relevant resources before you arrive at Sloan. Today's topic is Sloan Technology Services, also known as STS. My name is Katie Bertman, and I'll be moderating today's webinar. Presenting today is my colleague, Chris Leswing, Technology Support Consultant, and also with us today is MBA Program Office staff member Sheila Canali, who will assist in answering any questions. Before we start, I'll go over the process, and then I'll turn it over to Chris. If you have any questions during the presentation, we invite you to use the Q&A functionality to type in your questions throughout the webinar. Once the presentation ends, we'll be happy to answer all of your questions. Let's get started. Chris, thank you for being with us today.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome. So today's presentation is an idea of giving students an overview of what the IT resources are here at Sloan and MIT. Go over some advice and some suggestions for the basic computer setup. Next, we'll go over what I call academic technology. This is some classroom technology that you're going to be using in the classroom. Finally, we'll have a Q&A to clarify any issues that may arise. Again, feel free to throw a question into the chat room at any time, and we'll take us, if we get those, we'll jump in and answer them as best we can. And with that, we'll get going. Again, Q&A questions. So who are we? As Katie mentioned, we're Sloan Technology Services. We refer to ourselves as STS. I know the location, I know it's kind of hard not having been here on campus, but we're in one of the main buildings here in the Sloan side of campus, and as the IT group, we're in the basement. Folks are always welcome to stop by. It's typically with students. Stopping by our office is the best method. It's usually a quick configuration check or something to do with your setup on your laptop. And we have technicians available 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, to handle any of those questions. So feel free to stop on by. We're kind of right in the middle of all the classrooms, so not too hard to find. A quick overview of Sloan Technology Services, just in general. We are the IT support group for the Sloan faculty, staff, and students. Now, we have a number of functions in our department. We have a help desk for the walk-ins, obviously. We also have an infrastructure and operations team managing a lot of various virtual servers, databases, etc. Apps and databases, we're always making new stuff or new processes, tapping into various resources around campus, so that group is very busy. We have a group dedicated just to the audiovisual needs of the classrooms. There's a lot of technologies in the classrooms. We have 6 folks working just to make sure that stays up. Finally, we have a research computing group. This is used primarily by our faculty and PhD students, but they do a lot of very computing intensive research. So we have 2 folks running that. And then finally, to keep everybody all on track, we have a project management team handling all the various incoming tasks and requests that come into our group. Another major provider of IT services here on campus is referred to as IS&T, Information Systems and Technology. This is the main help desk for the institute as a whole. Now, well, STS, Sloan Technology Services, is your primary contact. IS&T does a lot of services that you will be taking advantage of. Some of the stuff they do, they manage the certificates. They do some of our software distribution. They manage the back-end email servers and the wireless networks. Some of the larger scale stuff that affects the whole institute in general. So we always want you to come to us first for your problem, but be aware that either the resource or the solution may also come from IS&T. So again, just kind of trying to lay the groundwork when you get here. Who are your resources when you get to when you get to MIT. Let's take a moment for those folks who are in the circumstance where they need to buy a new machine. A couple things we recommend. If you're a Mac user or a PC user, they both work fine. The one caveat is there is a couple core classes that use some Windows specific software in their curriculum. So Mac users, we do have another resource I'll mention later. We have some computer labs that have virtualized Windows. So we do have a workaround for that. So pretty much stick with what you feel comfortable. You know, if you haven't used a Mac before and you're thinking of buying one, keep in mind there's going to be a lot of new learning curves here while you're here at Sloan. And do you want to add another one? Or do you want to stay with an operating system or a computing environment where you're kind of comfortable and very productive in? But ultimately, they'll both work. Again, we have some suggested minimum specs. It's pretty hard not to hit those if you're buying a new computer at this point, but keep them in mind. It's helpful to have that and ensure that the computer will have some lifetime after you leave here. So we're going to take a second and go through and kind of give some talking points of personal computing. We're not going to go into absolutely every option while you're here at MIT. There's quite a bit. These are kind of the things that we think are the basic things you need to be taken care of, and then you will be ready for day one of class. At that point, as you go through the classroom and your classes, and you find you need new or different computing resources, we know where we can go and find those. But this is kind of the minimum setup. Quick talking point here is, this can get a little confusing. So you have two accounts while you're here at Sloan. You have a Kerberos account. And you have a Sloan account. So the Kerberos account is your username, whatever, at mit.edu. Your Sloan account is typically in the format of first.last. Little differences in these. Upon graduation, your Kerberos account expires. Your Sloan account does not. You'll use that to go into the alumni environment. And just some of the things you'll use each of these accounts for. The Kerberos account, you'll see you use it when you set up your MIT, your email, your digital certs, stuff like that. Your Sloan account, you're going to use that to log into My Sloan, or you're going to log into the computer labs with that. So most people are usually used to having just a single sign-on for whatever organization they work at. We, however, have two, and I just want to kind of put that in people's minds before we go on. One of the first things you'll need to do is make sure you have digital certificates installed. This is an authentication method that MIT uses to, who gets what software. Note, they do expire at the end of every July, not just this year. They expire yearly at the end of July. So for some folks in the audience, you may have already done this. You'll need to do it again, unfortunately. It's just the timing of the summer. So now you can install them per browser, not per computer. You just don't install it once. It doesn't work on every browser. So the typical setup, when you run CertAid, on Mac, it'll install it on Safari and Chrome. And on a PC, it'll install it in IE/Edge and Chrome. Firefox, you always have to put in manually. But you want to make sure you have those in and installed. You'll need it to download software, etc. And if you have done it already, keep in mind you may have to renew that. So those are digital certificates. Microsoft Office. MIT offers students a copy of Microsoft Office while you're here. So a couple notes. If you have you don't have to use MIT's version. If you have a working version of Office, you're fine. You don't have to uninstall it and reinstall it. If you don't have an installation of Office, you're welcome to download and install ours. We do want to remind people, though, that you probably want to remove any previous versions of Office prior to installing ours. So remove them, reboot, then install ours. Also, for folks who have bought a brand new computer, you may not have signed up for Office, but there's most likely a version of it installed on your machine. Check for that first before you install ours. That might save you some time. And again, if there's any questions, please feel free to throw something into the chat room and we'll get right on that. MIT email. We have a number of things here. So for folks who haven't set up Outlook, you can access it. There is a web client, and it is simply the address of owa.mit.edu. This uses your Kerberos username and password to authenticate, and you can access it there. We also have instructions on your admit site for configuring the Outlook client, if you'd like. Finally, a number of people do like to forward their mail to Gmail or any other email service, and that's fine. There's a link here in the slide that you can go to. And at that site, you simply authenticate again with your Kerberos information and tell MIT where you would like your mail forwarded to, and it will go to that address. A moment to talk about printing here at MIT. MIT uses a print and hold and release system. The software is called Pharos. Again, in your admin site, there's instructions to install it. Pharos is the public printing system here at MIT as a whole. There are a number of Pharos stations placed strategically in and around the Sloan classroom buildings, trying to keep them as near to the students as possible. So I won't go into the exact details of where they are when you'll find them when you get here. More importantly to know is that the hold and release system works when after you install the software and you try to print something, you have to bring your MIT ID card and swipe it at the printer, select your jobs, and then they'll be released. That's the idea behind that. But there's 5 or 6 of them right here on campus, near the classrooms, and then if you live on campus, this is the same system you'll be using in the dorms, etc. There is technically a 3,000 credit limit, but I have very rarely heard of students running into that or it being an impact on their processes. Quick note on this one. Prior to installation, this is when you probably want to take an extra second and read the instructions first. You do have to uncompress the file for it to run properly on installation. So just take a moment in there to reread those instructions, and you'll to ensure a good, clean install. Dropbox. Everyone at MIT has access to Dropbox. So the process is you'll need to go to the site on the slide and create your account. Once that account is created, you can download and install the client. Starting in the fall, there will be a 200 gig storage limit on this. So feel free to download that, use it. Keep in mind though that this goes away when you graduate. So careful of how you build that into whatever processes you have. But this is a new product that we have. Data backup. This is one I usually like to hit a little hard. I usually, when I do my typical in-person classroom, I ask for a show of hands on this topic of who is actively managing a backup on their system, and I usually get somewhere around 1, maybe 2 people in the room. While you're here at MIT, I strongly suggest that you set up this or some similar backup plan on your computer. We have lots of instances where computers are damaged or stolen, or for whatever reason, data is lost. pace at which students work here at Sloan is really heavy and fast-paced, obviously. The problem is if you don't have a backup, it's really hard to get back up and running and not fall behind in the classes. And I just can't recommend it enough. Take a moment, it's in the admin site for instructions, install it, it's free. Again, you'll have it running and it'll automatically back up your data, so it's one less thing you have to put on your to-do list. It'll just happen automatically and you'll have the peace of mind. Hopefully you never use it, but for the people who do, they're very happy. Antivirus. We recommend that all students have a antivirus installed on your system, even the Mac users. If you have one and you're using it and you know it's updating, that's fine. If you don't, we offer a version called Sophos for free. Again, I think this software is nice. It's not a magic bullet. It won't prevent everything, but there is a lot of low-hanging fruit out on the web that you should always have something like this checking for the basic stuff out there. So again, if you have one, okay. If you don't have one at this point, we would recommend you getting ours. For mobile devices, there is an excellent site set up here for IS&T. It basically asks you which operating system do you want, and then gives you instructions for setting up your email or digital certificates, etc. Those are probably the two biggest ones you'll use. So we definitely recommend you getting set up with that. We also recommend students get the MIT app. It's free, it's in the App Store or the Google Play Store. Got a lot of neat features for when you're here on campus. The big one being the shuttle buses. So if you're living on campus, these shuttle buses here at MIT are equipped with GPS, and you can see them on the map where they're coming. Now, that feature doesn't seem so amazing here in the middle of July, but in the middle of February, when it's freezing out, it's very nice to stay in the building to the last minute until the bus comes around the corner. There's a people directory to find everybody. There's also, putting this app on your phone also helps tie you into an emergency alert system here at MIT. It's always interesting to keep, be situationally aware, know what you're going on, and you want to grab that for that. So a nice, neat app. Definitely suggest you get that. When you arrive here on campus, you will see a number of wireless networks when you turn your system on. Ideally, we would like you to use the MIT Secure Network. That uses your Kerberos username and password to sign on. If not, MIT is open. What we would definitely want to make the takeaway from this slide here, though, is that don't bother with the guest network. Most internal services do not function while you're on the guest network. So you can't print when you're on the guest network, or you can't see various resources. So just in general, if you're not a guest, don't use the guest network. Save yourself some frustration. This slide is for a few people who may be traveling internationally. Every year we have a handful of people who set up Duo, the two-factor authentication, on a single device, their mobile phone, in their native country. And when they travel here, the phone doesn't come with them. If you run into that, give us a call. We can help you or guide you to the people who can help you get past that, and basically get Duo set up on your new phone here when you arrive at MIT. So again, small group of people affected, but we see it on a pretty regular basis, so I just want to mention it for everybody. We will be having some orientation sessions similar to this, but also you have the ability to see us in person and get some hands-on help. Those will be in Sloan groups and able to sign up. You'll be getting some notifications. Those will be towards the end of August, right before when you arrive. And again, we'll do another basic version of this presentation, but also we have a lot of time where we can help you get through any little gotchas or something that you were struggling with as far as setting up some stuff on your laptop. Let's take a moment now, and we're going to talk. That was kind of your personal laptop, what we think you need for day one. The next bit of technology that we would like to take some time and review is the technology you're going to experience in the classroom. And the big one on that is a system called Canvas. Canvas is the MIT course management system. So we're going to take a moment now. The folks in our AV group have made a nice video that explains it, and we're going to run that for you now. So it sounds like we're having some audio issues on this. Let me take a moment and I can kind of explain in some basic detail what Canvas and a course management system is. I apologize for that. The Canvas is an online mechanism by which you can, every class has a section in Canvas. So in each class, there will be notes on homework, reading assignments, access to reading materials, chats with the TA, anything related to that course. So then obviously you would have a section for each of the different courses you are taking, and as you go through your time here at MIT, you will be using Canvas for every class that you're going to be taking. It's not invasive, but it's pervasive throughout all of the courses here now. You can take, there's a feature in Canvas where you can roll your, you can sync that up with your calendar, so you have your classes on your calendar. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that goes on with that. That's kind of, I apologize, that's kind of the thumbnail overview of Canvas. The good thing with it is you'll use it at every time. It's not something, it's not a fringe technology. You'll use this every day. So you will become very familiar very quickly with it. Some material will be handed off. There are some reading materials. Most will be handled through Canvas. There is, just to have an awareness though, there are some other courses where you may have to go through a second group called study.net to get your reading materials. These are all downloaded as a PDF once you get set up in the class, and you can just download this PDF to your device of your choice and whatever you prefer to read it. The study.net one does offer the ability to buy a printed pack if that happens to be a technique that you prefer better for your study habits. Another academic technology that we offer is the computer labs. I referred to this a little bit briefly when we were on the slide regarding choosing a new computer. These are, we have a small space that's physically where you can sit down and use them. Otherwise, you can just sign into a website and sit in front of a full-on web Windows machine. We keep them all loaded with Office. Any of the specialized software that the core classes are requesting, we've put on there. So for the Mac users, when you need that workaround for the core class, this is going to be your first option that we're going to point you to. Very easy to log in on, you do your homework, and you can get out. We also put a lot of heavier statistical packages that are not, if you're interested, they're not really licensed out down to the students, but we have them on these systems. We also have in the labs printing, and a handful of the labs have some Bloomberg terminals located in them if that's a resource you're interested in. All students, all Sloan students are welcome to use the Bloomberg terminals. And a lot of times it's a nice source of data for a project or research, whatever you need, but we have it there for you. A second resource that is used quite a bit, and you're already using it now, I'm sure, is Sloan Groups. As you probably picked up, this is kind of event management here at Sloan, with event being kind of a very loose definition. So lots of groups have different happenings, again, events, and they promote them or manage attendance through Sloan Groups. This is our note here. For the folks, in the past, we've had issues sometimes with folks trying to get notes from Sloan Groups. If you forwarded your MIT account to a Gmail account, there have been instances where Sloan Group emails do not make it through that forwarding. We're not sure exactly why. So the folks that use Sloan Groups will always kind of promote you to use Outlook, natively, and help you get that. So just a little caveat on that. But again, Sloan Groups is kind of similar to Canvas, where it's kind of pervasive throughout Sloan. It's very hard not to be exposed to that. Another resource here at Sloan is, again, you're probably already using it, is My Sloan. It's our internal website. The idea in My Sloan is kind of have a 3-tier life cycle. Right now, students are in the admit site. So kind of a confined space, basically giving you just the information you really need for the admission process. Once you become a full-time student, that view expands and you see the full site. At that point, every office and every department here at Sloan has some degree of a presence on My Sloan. Lots of them will put in their various procedures. For mine, you can go there and find all the software and all the instructions to download it. So every department has a lot of resources in here. Again, a good resource just to find this, save it as a website. And when you're looking or you're trying to figure out what's going on or how to get something done, this is another tool in your tool belt. This is the end of the main portion of our presentation. So a few resources for personal computer setup. Check your admit site. We have a page there, gets the basics, what we kind of think for you need, what we think you are most need on going into just day one. Not everything that you may or may not need for the entire time here. IS&T's landing page. Again, that's the institute-wide service desk. They do a lot of back-end technology for us. And of course, you always have Sloan Technology Service. Feel free to call us. If you're near campus, feel free to drop in. We can always take a second, help you out, and get you moving on your various things. So I'm not sure if we have any questions in the chat room. So it sounds like we do, so let's roll through some of the questions.
One of the questions that came in says, how much is the Office version?
The Office version? How much? Like dollar-wise?
Yeah.
It's included with your tuition. So $100,000 roughly.
This person says, is printing free and unlimited?
Printing is technically free, again, included in your tuition. There is a yearly print limit of 3,000 credits. If a student has run into that print limit, they get a stern, I have air quotes in the air here that you can't see, finger quote, a stern email from IS&T, but they won't get cut off. Honestly, in the time I've been since they've had this system in, I've yet to hear of many, I don't hear of very many students at all that run into that as a limit. So I wouldn't worry about it.
Another person had asked, does the data backup software you suggested / recommended come with any cloud storage?
It does not. It is a backup service. Only Dropbox would be the cloud storage service that MIT offers.
And this person says, what Microsoft Office version do we use? Is it 2016?
2016, we have 2016 and 2013. Both are fine. Might as well grab it. If you have 2013 and you want to use it, you can stay with that. 2016 is the offering that is currently available here at MIT.
This person also asks, how do I log into Outlook for email?
So you have to take a second, look at your admin site. Once you've downloaded and installed Office, there is a second section where you can go through the process of configuring Outlook to see your MIT account. Basically put in your name, your email address, and your Kerberos password, and it should configure. But there are instructions on your admin site, or if you run into trouble, give us a call.
This person kind of has a few questions in one, so we'll start with, should I assume that a link to install/download the Pharos pop-up client will be sent to us when we arrive on campus?
No, you should not assume that. Your instructions for that are in the admin site. We do not actively ping students to tell them this is the time to do this or not. This is your ping.
And they also asked, what about those 3,000 credits you mentioned? Are they given to us in some type of an account initiation, or do we pay to get printing credits and then recharge our accounts?
You don't have to take any action. When you come on campus, this is all set up for you. When you get your Kerberos account, this is a natural action of that. You don't have to take any action. The only action would be on the very rare instance you maybe ran up against the limit, and that would be well into the year, I'm sure.
Another student said, I just tried to access the ist.mit.edu/services/mobile site, and I got a 4040 page not found. Are we expected to access it while on campus? I was trying to complete any required setup.
No, there might be an issue with it. The other way to get that is if you go to MIT's homepage, mit.edu, and up in the top right hand, there's a Google search. And the easiest search to find this with, it sounds unusual, but it is Mobile Ninja. 2 words, put that into the search field. The top hit should be that site. But I'll double check that link.
This person says, I set up a forward of my emails to my personal Outlook, but it's not keeping any copy in my MIT Outlook. Is it possible to change that? I'd like to see my MIT emails in both inboxes.
You would have to go back to the forwarding space, and I believe there is an option to split your mail. I would be cautious in this setup. You're getting mail in 2 different locations. My advice to students would be to keep your mail set up as simple and as reliable as possible. You're going to be using it for a lot of things, and if you're bouncing it between too many services, you can have complications.
And this person asks, should we use username at mit.edu or first.last@sloan.mit.edu for email?
Your email is your Kerberos username and password.
At mit.edu.
So your Kerberos name is that email address without the @mit.edu. Depending on where you are in the instructions, you have to put the full address in, or you may be asked to put in your username and password. Does that clarify when you would use what, hopefully?
The student asks, is the @sloan.mit.edu email address set up automatically, and does it forward to the @mit.edu email address?
So the your @Sloan address is a forwarding service. It's not a full email. I believe they set it up initially to point to your MIT address. You can change that to whatever you want. It's part of your My Sloan profile where you can add your various academic credits. One of the sections is email forwarding, and you can go in there and designate an address if you would so like.
Hi.
Question says, where in the admin site is Outlook configuration found?
There should be a couple sections. I believe it's under the setting up your computer, and there should be a portion to download Office and then a portion to configure Outlook.
Those are all the questions that have come in, but I do want to leave it open for a few more minutes in case you guys have any questions that you come up with. We want to be able to answer everything that you have. If there's something that you need more clarification on, please add it into the Q&A functionality, and we will hang here for a few minutes.
Definitely.
Hi, this is Sheila Canale. Are you able to hear me? Hello? Hello?
This person asks, do you have MS Office for Mac users as well?
Yes, we do.
And great, thank you, Steve. Steve has let us know that he can hear Sheila. So Sheila, go ahead if you want to jump in, please do.
Yes, I'm trying. Can you hear me? Hello? Okay, so I'm happy that you can hear me. This is Sheila Canale, MBA advisor from the MBA program office. I want to suggest to students the following. The MBA program office, together with other offices, career development office, and other offices within Sloan, highly recommend students to select the Kerberos account as their preferred email. And because a lot of the formal communications that actually go from these offices are sent to Sloan groups, and forwarding emails to your Gmail accounts will not be supported by MIT. You will get a lot of the academic programming, a lot of the orientation, convocation, career development information through that platform, and we suggest students to use our Kerberos. With that, we also suggest students to download the Outlook in their mobile phones and their computers, because when you use the Outlook and you use our Kerberos, which is at mit.edu email, you will have the opportunity to also access the directory that is available in the Outlook, and also use the calendar functionality to see other students' calendars and other offices calendars if available and open to you. So for everybody, we suggest you go into the My Sloan profile and select the Kerberos email as your preferred email for communications. So if you have any questions, please do so in the Q&A functionality. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheila, for that. And again, we'll wait a few minutes just to see if any other questions come in. You're very welcome, Chris Willis. He said this has been helpful. Thank you.
Glad we can get ahead of it for you.
This person also says, I'm not sure I understand where we're supposed to make that change to set the Kerberos email as default for comms. Can you, do you mean comms is in terms of communication? If you could clarify that question for us. Yes, this person is saying that are not sure they understand where we're supposed to make that change to set the Kerberos emails as default for communication.
So when you go to, this is Sheila again. The same way that you go into the About Me tab, when you make your selections, there are, on that tab, there are other tabs that actually you can navigate through. There's one that says emails, and in there, you can select your Kerberos as your preferred email for communications. That way, you will get all communications and from the programs and the different offices without missing any of it. So feel free to write an email to the MBA program office if you need more information about that.
Thank you, Sheila. I hope that had helped you. Let's see. Lindsay asks, I'd like to set up my efl@sloan.mit.edu account on my Gmail such that I can reply to emails through the alias. Where can we get the configuration details, such as the SMTP and port settings? I have this type of configuration set up for my MIT alum EFL account, but I've not been successful with the Sloan EFL account.
So the Sloan EFL account is currently not, this is not something the service was intended for. The service is intended to be a forwarding service. There have been workarounds, again, air quotes around that, that have rendered the various workarounds useless as the various email providers, Yahoo, Google, etc., change their requirements. I know there's the Google one is floating around, but there are no SMTP servers to set up. It's really just a forwarding service. We have currently, the only workaround we have currently working right now is through Yahoo. And again, we don't know how long that'll go. So if this is something you really want to pursue, I would just send an email to stshelp@mit.edu, and we can see if we can forward you out some information on that workaround. But again, it's a workaround. It's not how the service was intended to be used. Hopefully that clarifies.
Just give it another minute or two again, just for any questions that may pop in. I want to make sure that if you guys think of anything that we're still here and able to answer.
Anything you can do now, it'll be great when you don't have to do it when you're here on campus, because you're going to be really stretched thin when you do arrive. So.
All right, thank you, Chris. We're going to wrap this up. Thank you for being here and helping. And Sheila, thank you. Oh, hold on. We got another question real quick. Got it in there just in time. How do I reset my Outlook password?
So if you have, so your Outlook password is your Kerberos password. You'd have to search MIT site. There is a way to reset it. The only way you can reset your password is if you have current digital certificates already on your machine, or you know the existing password. If those are neither of those are the case, you'll have to call IS&T, and I can give you their number. It's 617-253-1101. It's not in the slide deck, but just for this particular individual, if you totally don't remember your Kerberos password and you don't have current certificates, you'll need to contact that group and they can walk you through resetting that account.
Okay, thank you, Chris, and thank you, Sheila. We hope this information on Sloan Technology Services was helpful. Once again, if you have further questions, you can always reach out to the MBA program office, or for those things related to STS, you can reach out to STS at stshelp@mit.edu. Their phone number is also 617-253-2000. They'd be happy to answer any questions for you before you arrive on campus and when you're here. And thank you for joining the MBA webinars. And we look forward to welcoming you here on campus in August.
Thank you, folks.